How's it going, everybody? We're back with another Strike Spot reaction. We're getting 3 this week, plus a live stream with the general manager later. They dropped some heavy hints last time. They dropped hints about the store economy. Apparently dropped tips about legendaries. I completely missed that, but people in the chat have been saying that. And we did just get a new graphic on the Discord banner. I want to see if it shows up here. If not, we'll talk about it at the end, where it's like an apocalypse-esque tease. Gonna be pretty hype stuff. Let's check this Strike Spot out. Boom!
Greetings, Commanders. My name is Pathfinder, and today we're back with Episode 2 of the Strike Spot miniseries, A New Age in Marvel Strike Force. If you haven't already, go back and watch Episode 1 so you're all caught up. There will be one more video tomorrow and a Twitch stream on Friday where we're going to answer all of the questions you might have, so make sure to join our Discord, Reddit, or Facebook pages to leave your questions so we can answer all of them live on Twitch on Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific.
All right, quickly before we get into this, how do you guys feel about this sort of mini series of videos, one every day this week, and then culminating in a live stream? I think this is a cool way for like the hyper engaged players to get involved in the theme of this new age starting. I think this is a good introduction. It's kind of fun, something to look forward to. I like it. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments.
Let's go ahead and dive into the interview where we talk about the chapter structure. All right, and we are back with Episode 2 in the Strike Spot miniseries, A New Age in MSF. As you can see, RJ and I are still here, still in the same clothes we were yesterday because the same interview. But in the first section, we talked about the New Age, things to come. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about chapters, about kind of how the age is actually going to work. So let's just dive right in. What is an age? How long does it last? What's the structure of this?
And I don't know, maybe this is a different interview, different day, you know what I mean? We're just wearing the same clothes. People don't know that, right? We could pretend and say, hey, we just wear the same thing for like a week long. This new age is going to be a year-long arc, so very similar to kind of the previous ages that we've had in the past. The one major difference and the overall kind of way we're going to run or operate this one is we're starting to really use the chapter system. And a chapter will be 3 months long. And inside of the chapter, you will be earning shards of a legendary character only through engagement. And very similar to kind of what we've been doing with Lilandra. We've been learning a lot from what we've been doing with her. But really, it's going to be broken up into 3 chapters, and then the conclusion of the age, which will be kind of Annihilus's chapter. So really still 4 chapters, but 3 legendary characters that will be coming out within each of those chapters.
All right, cool. Let's take a quick look at that. We're at 2113. So we're getting 3 legendary characters this year. I suppose we only got 2 last year, Old Man Logan and Shadow King. Some people debate if Odin was supposed to be a legendary character or not. Who knows? I think he's way too good to be a legendary character, if I'm being honest. Maybe they reworked him, though. But okay, so we're getting 3 legendary characters, 3 months. So when does the first age start is the question, because then we're going to know, like, a legendary character is coming. How do you guys feel about it being like a Lilandra-style unlock? It's going to, if we lose Scourges, I'm going to have a meltdown, okay? I'm gonna have a full crash out. Someone's going to have to come find me up here in Northern Ontario. You're going to have to come find my body in the forest, because I'm going to have a legendary crash out if we lose Scourges, okay? That would be crazy. My heart would be broken. But 3 legendary characters. We do have a little teaser. I think they'll show it. If not, I'll pull it up later. How do we feel about that? Lilandra style legendary. So everyone's going to just walk away with a 7-star character. It's kind of cool, right? They got to be better than Lilandra, though. Oops.
Okay. So you talk about the legendary characters, earning those through engagement. How are we going to power up that character throughout the month? I mean, what kind of events are we going to have? What are we looking at as far as timeline structure of that?
Yeah, so events will be very similar to kind of what we're doing right now with the command center and kind of global milestones in terms of making sure that what we call the core loop, so basically the month-long kind of meta events that we're running are always first and foremost right in front of your face. You know what you should be doing, but we're going to be slowly dripping out shards of this legendary character. So think of 810 plus shards that for the next 3 months will be given out through engagement, and that is how you will power up or get your yellow stars for these legendary characters. Same thing with kind of what we're thinking about doing with the red stars is very similar to the scourges that we've run in the past, but those being the primary way that you're going to earn red stars for these legendary characters. So think of maybe in month 1 of chapter 1, you're earning some amount of the red stars. And then in month 2, we're running another scourge, and you're going to probably power them up some more. And then by month 3, you're running a scourge, the last scourge of that chapter, and then you could fully power up that legendary character. So based off of the player's engagement will determine how many yellow stars and red stars you're walking away with within that chapter.
That confused the heck out of me. The meme was great, but that confused the heck out of me. So we're at scourges for red stars, but is there a leaderboard? Why would I have to do more scourges? If I hit like top 50, do I not get the 7 red stars like we normally do? Let's play that back. Let's play that back.
And kind of global milestones in terms of making sure that what we call the core loop, so basically the month-long kind of meta events that we're running, are always first and foremost right in front of your face. You know what you should be doing, but we're going to be slowly dripping out shards of this legendary character. So think of 810 plus shards that for the next 3 months will be given out through engagement, and that is how you will power up or get your yellow stars for these legendary characters.
Okay.
Same thing with kind of what we're thinking about doing with the red stars is very similar to the scourges that we've run in the past, but those being the primary way that you're going to earn red stars for these legendary characters. So think of maybe in month 1 of chapter 1, you're earning some amount of the red stars. And then in month 2, we're running another scourge, and you're going to probably power them up some more. And then by month 3, you're running a scourge, the last scourge of that chapter, and then you could fully power up that legendary character. So based off of the player's engagement will determine how many yellow stars and red stars you're walking away with within that chapter.
Okay, so yeah, that's confusing. I'm still confused after hearing it back and really focusing in on it. How does that work? How does doing Scourge 3 finish off my red stars as opposed to what does Scourge 1 give me? So for Scourge 1, does the leaderboard give like 4 red stars if we get top 50? And for Scourge 3, does it give me 7 red stars? So like Scourge 1 and 2 don't matter as long as I ace Scourge 3. Is there no leaderboards? Is there just milestone points? If there's just milestone points, does everybody walk away with a 7 red star legendary character if they're an end game engaged player? Yeah, it could just be a participation thing. So I don't know how to parse this information because so the thing about Scourges is it's fun to do the hardest difficulties and put a lot of stuff on for a lot of players because that's kind of the hardest, most challenging, brain teasing sort of PvE content that we get. If it just becomes participation trophies, that would be bad. Yeah, if there's no leaderboard, so they got to put some sort of leaderboard to make me want to do the highest difficulty with all the packs on. Because for sure, it's not going to be like a temporal cataclysm to get the 4 red stars in the first scourge, right? It's not going to be that level of difficulty with everything equipped. That would make no sense. I'll ask some more questions about that next time I get to talk to these guys because there is a little bit of confusion there. Like, what's the exact plans for red stars? That's the question, I guess. And what is the exact plan for these scourges that are coming, leaderboards? What's going on?
Okay, very cool. So tons of engagement throughout the month revolving around a legendary character. I assume we're going to have, some teams that you're going to need as a part of that whole system, and maybe those are the ones that we earn throughout the chapter. Is there anything you can tell us about that at all?
Yeah, I think we're going to go pretty in depth in one of these upcoming videos around just kind of the seasonal kind of shop, some of the differences there and what's going to go into those shops. But yeah, I would say, the teams within the month are still going to have some play in this age and kind of, determining the success of kind of the players moving forward. But I would say the big difference is that we want to make sure that the content that players are able to go into is very player friendly in terms of no paywalling content, making sure that everything's really accessible, but it will be up to players to have the kind of choice around who are you powering up within this chapter. It's going to be more or less based on what your preferences are, but there will be a lot more kind of flexibility in some of the content that we're running throughout those chapters.
One
That confused me because at first I thought he was basically hinting at like, hey, do what Durkee says. Build whatever's newest because you're going to be needing those newest characters during this chapter to excel and get the best rewards in this chapter. But then he talked a lot about flexibility. So I don't know where that was going. That was awkward. Does anybody in chat understand where that was going? Did I just black out? Let's do it again.
I think we're going to go pretty in depth in one of these upcoming videos around just kind of the seasonal kind of shop. Some of the
So there's a hint at the seasonal shop stuff. I guess that's not going to be in this video. I'm really looking forward to hearing about shops. We need good shops.
differences there and what's going to go into those shops. But yeah, I would say, the teams within the month are still going to have some play in this age and kind of, determining the success of kind of the players moving forward. But I would say the big difference is that we want to make sure that the content that players are able to go into is very player friendly in terms of no paywalling content, making sure that everything's really accessible, but it will be up to players to have the kind of choice around who are you powering up within this chapter. It's going to be more or less based on what your preferences are, but there will be a lot more kind of flexibility in some of the content that we're running throughout those chapters.
One thing that, at least for myself, of the old age, right? The Age of Apocalypse was, throughout the whole thing, you were leveling up a team for a legendary character, and then at the end, it didn't really quite fit together where all the legendaries worked with Apocalypse. Are we going to have any differences regarding that? Like, are the legendaries going to have their own team? How's some of that going?
Yeah, I think we always learn from, what we've done in the past, right? And so I would say with Age of Apocalypse, yeah, you're spot on. I'm a big Apocalypse fan. I was super excited when I just joined this team and kind of heard, oh, we're doing the Age of Apocalypse. And I was like, oh, the Horsemen, we're going to build them up and then they're all going to come together and they're going to be this kind of uber team, right? I was kind of like, nope, that's not really what our plans are. I think here we're going to take a different stance where we are going to make sure that at the end of this age, you are going to have an Annihilus team that is basically consisting of all of these legendaries plus a couple others that will form a great team in the end of this age. And also, I would say when we look back at kind of the way that, Old Man Logan or our Shadow King or some of these older Scourge events have run, we've learned some of the mistakes that maybe the community wasn't really excited about or some of the things we could have done differently. And so I think that's also our learnings that we're going to pull forward and kind of making sure that everything that we're doing within these chapters that leads to the conclusion of this age, everyone is really excited about.
Well,
Okay, there was a lot there. Particularly the Horseman Mega Team thing. I don't. Okay, I liked what they did with Apocalypse. I liked that Apocalypse was a standalone character, and that yes, his Horseman had synergy with him, and that was the Mega Arena team. But it made very little sense to pull all of the teams we've been building over the year and slap them into one team in war, because then instead of having 4 Horseman teams and 1 Apocalypse hybrid team somewhere else, instead of having 5 teams total, you'd only have 1, and then you'd have like, if you remember back, it would be like what, Scarlet Witch and Phantom X and Dazzler with Gambit alone? No, I mixed 2 teams there, sorry. It'd be like Wong, Wanda, Agatha, and Doctor Strange Heartless with no Morgan, so the team's garbage. So it invalidates that whole Darkhold team falls apart without the legendary character. So if this Annihilus team is going to take the legendary characters away, and then whatever that legendary character's team is falls to shit, then all the resources we put in that legendary character's team feels completely wasted. Now, there's a way to sort of balance that out. Like if every team has 6 members instead of 5, like Illuminati, you can do something like that, but then we're having to build more characters, which could mean 3 reworks instead of 2. Like, that would be okay. I don't love this super team idea if it destroys the other teams. You need to have 6-member teams then, which is actually a cool idea because then you have a lot of flexibility when it comes to different game modes. I much prefer that. Also, I don't love the idea of Annihilus having a team because it concerns me that Annihilus will be the first mythical character that is not plug and play. Hear me out. If he is being designed with this team in mind, could you really have a Professor X level kit or a Odin level kit or a Mephisto level kit on a character that you're going to be slamming with just these absolute monster legendary characters? Like, how uninteresting do the legendary characters have to be, or Annihilus have to be, for this mega team not just to break things? That was the same conversation we had with Horseman, but back then we didn't have as much speed bar stuff. We didn't have Safeguard. Do we even have Trauma then? I guess Apocalypse gave Trauma. Trauma came with Omega Red, so yeah, right before that. It kind of makes me feel like is our next mythical character not going to be plug and play? That's just straight like random worry, I guess. We'd have to see what his kit's going to look like probably 9 months from now, but you know what I mean? Let me know what you guys think about that.
A big question, for me is what happens if, say I'm a new player and I join in month 2 or maybe even month 3. Like, what can I still do, or how can I be able to power up these characters without missing a ton of time in that chapter?
Yeah, so we're still determining kind of the catch-up mechanic, quote unquote. We definitely know that we need to build that into the system,
Good.
but we also want to reward players, right, for kind of being there from the start of the chapter all the way to the conclusion of the chapter.
Good.
But we also know life happens, right? You may go on vacation, maybe you miss a few days. So we don't want to be as punishing as I would say sometimes games can be, in terms of you miss a few days here and there and you miss out on some of these shards. So we're going to build some catch-up mechanics, even for the players who maybe miss out on some days inside of the chapter. But we do know that there will be a way that once a chapter concludes, you can kind of start to make back up those shards of that legendary character that maybe you missed out on. We want everyone to have these legendary characters as they're moving through or progressing through these chapters. So that is something that we're taking, a deep look into, and kind of how do we execute that. But we also know we want players to really fully engage inside of the chapter. So it's a delicate little balance that we're trying to strike right now, but that there will be a way for players to be able to catch up.
Okay, so a couple things to what he just said. Just do Lilandra. How much overflow of Lilandra did they give out to the point where it's like, okay, I missed 5 days of maxing out the raid milestone. Okay, but they gave 2,000 Mechan Crystals away when it came to a promo code during the tournament or something like that, right? They gave thousands away for this global milestone. So you just give a big surplus, and if people miss during that season, like, they'll catch up because there's this big surplus, right? I think Lilandra was a really, really good blueprint for what these yellow stars would be. The catch-up mechanic for after the chapter, they just can't let this be like Old Man Logan and Shadow King, where there are still players to this day asking me every single day, when is Old Man Logan coming back? I need to unlock him. I need him for raids. When is Shadow King coming back? I need him for Battle World. If I don't have Astral for Battle World, I literally cannot do the node that gives me Purple ISO that helps me get Odin. So the catch-up mechanic has to be like permanently there for people to plug away at. I think of a catch-up mechanic being like the web store where they give the 5 shards away daily. Like, almost do something like that when somebody comes back, or something that's just permanent, obvious, and in the player's control after they miss, the chapter of the legendary character. It's got to be something like that.
Sometimes, Marvel Strike Force takes its own kind of turn, or goes a different direction, that sometimes players are pretty excited about, and sometimes they're pretty vocal about on the choices that we make, within various teams that we're creating. So we are trying to, as closely as we can, tie to the narrative also that kind of a lot of the comic book fans may remember.
Excuse me, you're not about to go by like that. Hello? Playback speed, 0.5. Mute this. We'll go back for a second. There's Annihilus. It's obviously a guy, short hair, he has ears, and he's wearing a... Is that like a Dracula? Could that be Dracula, chapter 3? He's got like a popped up collar. It's not Blade, right? I have no idea. Is that a Wendigo? I don't know. Does anyone know what that is? Oh, is it a city character? Am I gonna wait to unlock this guy until for Professor X? Oh, yeah. Is this Annihilation Johnny? Ooh, I do not know who Blastaar is. Who's Blastaar? I'm gonna have to look that up. We'll look that up. That's exciting. I'm down with that. I like these teasers. I miss these teasers from the Apocalypse stuff.
It's a delicate little balance that we're trying to strike right now, but that there will be a way for players to be able to catch up. Sometimes, Marvel Strike Force takes its own kind of turn or goes a different direction that sometimes players are pretty excited about, and sometimes they're pretty vocal about on the choices that we make, within various teams that we're creating. So we are trying to, as closely as we can, tie to the narrative also that kind of a lot of the comic book fans may remember around Annihilus. And of course, we're going to take our own spin on it, but we also want this to be in front of your face throughout this age. So really making sure that we're pushing, driving the immersion. It's always fun to see who players or the community think is going to come into the game or who they have strong opinions on. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to kind of the next couple legendary characters to see how the community reacts.
That sounds great. And yeah, it looks like this is Blastaar. Makes sense. I mean, it looks exactly like him. It's 100% that guy. So Blastaar's one. There you go. Blastaar confirmed. Your hype level. Who? Who? I don't know who that guy is.
Awesome. Well, I think that's going to conclude our second mini-series episode in the new age of MSF. So, like we did in the first one, want to tease a little bit about what we're going to cover tomorrow?
I think one of the major teases will probably be in the same clothes again, right? That might happen.
For sure. That will for sure happen.
Yeah, I think for this next one, we're going to talk a lot about shops. We know for a long time, we've been hearing from the community around our shops, lack there of value from the players and kind of the player standpoint around us needing to do a pretty big refresh to those shops. With the start of this new age, you are going to be getting a massive refresh of the shops.
Well, stay tuned for.
That's what X just asked. That's what he just asked. Massive refresh of the shops. Not a seasonal shop. Not like the X-Coin shop we have now, which is great because we have a lot of control there. But the shops. So massive overhaul of the shops, and they need to keep up with it. I'm excited to see what they're going to say. Let's let Pathfinder send us home.
For that, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
Hold on. Maybe there's going to be a sneak peek. There's nothing. Where's my MCU after credit scene? What's going on here? All right, this was a much better strike spot for sure. The last one was just the instruction. This is fine. I like that. Legendary characters being released like Lilandra, I'm fine with that. They need to land the catch-up mechanic both on people who might miss a week for vacations and for people that are not going to get it during the chapters. It looks like they understand that is the goal. More hints at shops, that's great. Blastaar looks like he's going to be one of the legendary characters for sure. Let's go ahead and find that little scroll wheel again. Here we go. So, I don't know, maybe like Dracula. Dracula would be pretty cool. That's definitely that Blastaar guy. I mean, it's not even a question, right? Like, this just is that guy. And he has ties to the Annihilus. If you Google Blastaar, the first thing that pops up is a picture of him fighting or with Annihilus. I didn't get a good look at it. And then this could be Johnny Storm after he gets kidnapped. Because it looks like, yeah, it's like a portal behind him kind of thing. Like, this could be Johnny Storm. This could be a lot of different characters. Look at these like shoulder pads type thing, right? Ooh, this is exciting stuff. This is a winning, to me, this is a winning approach to starting in the Age of Annihilus, having these videos come out one after the other. So shout out to Saw Owner and Ryan and the whole team over there for making it happen. This is much better. Yeah, Professor X, Age of X, literally didn't realize it was here until I started buying Gear Tier 20 pieces. You're thinking Franklin, Blastaar, and Quasar. Ooh, I know Quasar. At least I remember Quasar. Let me go Google Quasar real quick. Quasar Marvel. Well, apparently there's a bunch of pregnant dude. Why is it just a pregnant dude with holding his belly everywhere? What's going on? All right. I don't really see the collar. Yeah, it's a little bit of a collar. It's not as pronounced though. Is he coming to the MCU? That would be a big hint if he was coming to the MCU. Hello, shoulder pads? Hold on. Hello, perfect shoulder pads? For what we saw here? Where are they? Wait. The perfect shoulder pads, what we saw here. Right? Cape, shoulder pads, whatever. It's the thing holding the cape down. All right, maybe Quasar. That looks sick. Yeah, looking like something you get in Dead Mines. Okay, we're going to end this video here. This video is too long. All right, guys, let me know what you think about this strike spot. Let me know what you guys have any questions. I'll make sure that I ask them. Legendary characters trickling in like Landra sounds kind of cool. Scourges are not dead. They're just being used for red stars now. Don't know how I feel about that because I don't know what the reward scheme is going to be like. Quasar and Blastaar, that's money for me. I don't know about the last guy. Maybe Dracula. I don't know. The collar makes me think Dracula for some reason. And the shops. More teases about the shops. They know we all want the shops information. That's why they're doing that last. All right, guys. Stay happy, stay healthy, have fun. Have yourselves a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.
That's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Stay happy, healthy, have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.